Hey everyone. So this is another exercise we're going to work on, kind of getting a little more complicated with our renderings. This is a two-story, you would say, space. You have a lot of things going on in this perspective. This is kind of, you have the living room back here. Well, it's a reading room. Living room is back behind this kind of staircase, bookcase there. Dining room, you see kind of some stools here that are facing basically a kitchen. Then you have a wall here that's dividing the entry door. And this is kind of the second story space up here, where this leads you up to bedrooms to the left and kind of an area where you go out to the outdoor garden on the second floor. This is all glass up here, right? These are kind of a glass that's happening within this residential space. So the idea for this is kind of like, okay, where do we begin this rendering? How do we create a good kind of illustration of what we're trying to show in terms of our ideas as a designer? And not to make it too overwhelming or too saturated. Just enough color to get the point across. Remember, the idea for this is not to be photorealistic, but it's to be a hint of realism, that you still can give kind of a client the imagination to what their space can look like, and even kind of see concrete ideas, but also let it be a little bit flexible, right? Because it's not a photorealistic approach. One of the benefits of photorealistic approach is that it looks like a photo. One of the negatives about it is that it looks like a photo. And why is that? Because if a client sees a photorealistic rendering and it doesn't look exactly like what you showed it, they're going to be, what happened, right? Why are the proportions off? Versus a kind of a render done by hand, sketch rendering, kind of an idea process, you know that there'll be areas for variation, and even colors will be a little bit different. But let's start with kind of how this approach begins. So I'm gonna always start with my grays, right? I'm saying this is a wood floor. I'm just gonna create where there's shadows, right? I'm gonna put where there's shadows here, right? And there'll be shadows over here, and there'll be shadows underneath here, right? Now this is a cool gray 1, guys. This is all this is, right? Cool gray 1. And there'll be shadows underneath here, right? I'm just putting where the shadows are going to be. Notice I'm just being kind of loose here as well, here as well. I know this is going to be stone, kind of this wall right here. So I'm just going to put a couple of spots in here, right? Like stippling effect. See that? Just in here to create that. Now this is just cool gray 1. We're going to get a lot darker, but I want you to start seeing this progress. There's going to be shadow on this chair, no matter what color it is, right? Because the light's going to hit it here on the top, maybe darker there. The table itself is going to have light to dark happening somewhere along it, right? This edge is probably going to be darker of the table, even if it's white. So I'm just creating this connection here to the objects. There'll be a shadow here, right? There'll be some different tonality of color on these. And of course this right here, this will be a little bit darker in the corners. Right? So I just want to show you that process. To show you what I'm doing right there, to see that evolution of the gradation of the color from light to dark, right? So you're going to see it there. Now I'm going to be a little more aggressive with the dark now. I'm gonna say that's shade, like on the table and on the floor, right? This will be shadow. I'm just going to make these lines so you can see what I mean by shadow. Those things are going to be shadow right here, shadow, like a deep shadow right here, caused by that, right? A deep shadow on the floor here, a deep shadow right there, and again this will have that deep shadow I kind of talked about here, right here as well. See how quickly I'm going with this? Now remember, you got to know your markers, so some of this is going to bleed, so that's why I'm not going all the way through, leaving some white spots. There you go. Because that's the shadow on the floor. And I'm going to be even more aggressive. I'm gonna make these really dark lines here, right? In these areas. Now I'm gonna use that gray because I want to make this stone kind of begin to come to life, right? I'm creating stippling effect still around this area, right? Create some movement, right? Of course, it's gonna be darker, maybe toward the bottom stones. And this side is going to be a lot darker because it's not going to have any direct light. So I'm just going to put some gray all over everything there. And I'm going to get that darker tone and go in between, like where that grout may be. I want to create some of those lines in there. And I'm going to just leave it like that for now, right? I can come back and add more details. But there you go, you begin to see that stone come to life in the rendering. Now let's talk about colors, right? I just wanted to start with that, and I'm going to be a little bit, here, let me go back here because I want to be a little bit more aggressive here. Like even these objects, I'm going to say that there's like a gray area there and in this area here. Okay, perfect. So what about the color of the object? Like let's say the floor is wood and the table, right, is wood as well, but I want to make the floor, just make it a little larger, lighter wood. But I want to create these streaks here, right? That's going to help us kind of create, you know how we have the wood planks? They don't always start in the same area. I'm just going to do this. Just like that. Right. So you see I was using freehand in that area. So the wood, let me start with a buff right here. And what I'm going to do is, this is not necessarily a reflective floor, so I'm going to go with the kind of vanishing point. These wood lines are all going toward the vanishing point. And I'm just going to grab and pull, right? Pull, and I'm going to kind of leave some things choppy in between here. I'm moving the straight as a triangle. Like if there's a vanishing point here, I'm keeping it there and just going up like this. Right? That's what I'm doing technically. Right? Let me go back here. Right? That's how you can control some of those streaks. Right? Once you're comfortable, like in this area, since it's so small, I'm just going to freehand this. And I'm being very quick with the marker. Even under here, I want to put some of this buff right happening. Right, so there you see some of the wood floor coming to life. If it's a light wood, I'll probably just go over the whole thing with the same buff color. Right? I have a lighter. This buff is dying. I have here. Let me see. This is this brick beige. Let me test the color out there. Yeah, that one. And it's a lighter than the buff I had, so you can still see those lines. I'm just gonna creating more of a language, more of the actual color of the wood. There you go. See, that's how I would begin. That's a light pine type wood, and it's okay to see those in between because you're just kind of creating, a rendering, an expression of the rendering per se. We go into the wall spaces, right? The wall spaces. Let us say this area here. Okay. I'm just gonna choose a color here for the wall. Let's be designerly. I don't know if you want green for the wall. My green is running out. No, I don't want. Yeah, let's do that. Let's see what happens. Let's make this wall kind of that green, right? I'm pulling it up. Same from here. Being very quick with this. So I'm pulling that, right? See, I'm pulling it like this. Now I know it's gonna be darker in the corner, so that's why I don't mind it being there. All right, and there'll be some green here too happening there. There you go. And I'm gonna leave it just like that. There we go, just like that. And if I want to be more intense in some areas, what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna say that's gonna be a more intense green there. Yeah, this green completely ran out already. I need to buy a new green grass. I don't know what happened to mine. So let me leave it like that. But I'm gonna kind of complement that. I'm gonna say that this wall right here is more of a lush color. That's more like pink. Here, more like that color, right? So this is the flesh, right? And the other one was kind of the powder pink. I don't want the powder pink. But what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna grab that color was from the floor and use that as an undertone for this wall, and just bring it up like this, right? And just, if the lights are on, just that same technique we did in the other exercise, I'll just leave that like that. And let me get my flesh, which is that color right there. Now that's the color of the wall. So I'm gonna come up here and bring it up, right? And I'm just doing this freehand, right? And what I'm going to do is create this effect. So I know this looks like it's choppy. So this is not, I'm going to use this marker on the whole wall, but I want to create a foundation where this bottom part is a little bit darker than the top part. Right. So now I'm going to do this quickly. Same thing that I did with the green. And that creates a better gradation of the color. Right? And you can always come back and make it darker here. But be careful, because you know this is going to keep on bleeding in the space. Alright. Now I'm going to, just so you guys see what I'm doing here. This is a picture frame. There's a shadow, so I'm putting this kind of dark line right there to create that shadow line. And I'm going to come back and probably make that darker. These objects, right? Let's say those objects were it's going to be like it's a white vase. I'm keeping that right there. I'm going to get the edge and make it dark at the edge, just right there, right? And that's what I'll do. And I'm going to come back later and put probably a gel pen right there, so you can create that highlight to make it feel like it's white, right? So that's us developing the space, so you can see it, light colors, right? And let's say this is actually a wood. It's all a wood kind of cabinetry, not the same color as the floor, I'd say. Right, but I'm going to start with that as an undertone. It's more this color, right? The inserts are going to be lighter. Like those are like insert panels right there, so they'll be lighter, but it'll be some shadow to it still. Right, so you have kind of that. And the top of it is going to be this color. Right? And what I'm going to do is these details are going to kind of pop out in the later when you see it final, but those little dots there show there's a shadow to the object, right? And I'm also going to create some depth here. Right, this is a cool gray I'm using because it's going to be a different color. It's not going to be the same suntan. This is the suntan color I was using for the actual cabinet there. Now I use that color, right, and this color for that cabinet, and I use the grays to create those areas. And I'm going to go back and pop that out. But you see how that's beginning to create kind of depth and evolution already to the object itself. How about this wood table? Just for purposes, I'm going to say that this is a green. Yeah, it's a green vase, right? It's a green vase or bowl, fruit bowl, a green fruit bowl, right there. And I'm creating that effect on it. See? And what I did with the lighter green, this lighter green I use here, is create this down streak. Because I'm going to say that that table is reflective. Now if it's white, I can just begin to leave it like that. It's white and it's reflecting it, right? If I want to make it darker, or it's a darker color or a brown or whatever, let's say a wood, and I'm going to kind of challenge this. I'm going to say it's a darker wood. So it's not this suntan. It's actually this. You see that right here. It's this burnt umber. Look how dark that is. But I'm not going to start with the burnt umber. I'm going to start with a lighter color, right? Remember, always start with a lighter color. In fact, I'm going to start with an even lighter color. I'm going to start with that one right there. And I'm just going to create these down streaks. So I start creating this. You see the reflect now. You're like, well, yeah, I get that. Okay, but it's not that light. It's a darker color. So I'm just gonna go. I like the way those lines came out, so I'm just gonna go over them now with this, a little more detailed, right? And you're gonna see like it looks like a mistake. It looks like it's too harsh, right? I'm gonna just create some edges here, right? And I'm gonna remember that these edges are darker. To the table. And I'm actually gonna make this side darker. Just so you can kind of see that what's happening there. Now, that's the table. And what I need to actually move this line all the way down. Yeah, all the way down. Right, all the way down. All the way down, all the way down, all the way down. Okay, so that's the suntan. Right, that's the suntan that I'm using. I haven't gone to the burnt umber yet. So this is a dark wood that's reflective. Now I'm gonna go to that burnt umber, and I'm gonna make that dark color happen here. Go right over this, and that's happening actually right here as well, right? Because that's the darkest color. And I'm gonna bring them down here as well, right? Now those white spots are not, they don't look as clean as when it was lighter. So I'll show you what we're gonna do now when it comes to the space itself. After I do that, I'm going to that second color I used, the one that I first used to make the lines, and I'm gonna go over the whole thing like this. Right, I'm just gonna do that to create that effect, right, of this object being reflective. This is the color of the object here. So I'm gonna bring that down a little more detailed, and I'm gonna create some of these right here now. And I want to create a straight line. There you go. There you go. So let this bleed out, right? The colors are forming itself. And you see how the table looks like it's highly reflective, and it's reflecting that particular green space there. I can probably grab this and move that up like that. There you go. We don't see so much white, so you see that. It still looks reflective. If you want to highlight the reflectivity, you get even darker with the gray, right? So I put gray here before, right? I can put some gray here if I want to. Make it even more reflective. So I guess you guys can see how that's creating that reflective object. The chairs and the tables, if they were brown as well, you go through the same process, right? But I'm gonna say these chairs are kind of working similar to the actual drawer right there. And I'm gonna use this light color just right over everything to say that's kind of the general color of the chairs itself. Right? I'm doing that right there. Right? I'm being free with it. Very free with it. But I also know there's going to be gray involved. Because believe it or not, this side and this is going to be darker. Over here. Or is it going to be darker? And this will be darker over here. Right? Now I'm going to go back to that same gray I was using. I'm sorry, the beige color. To go over it. Right? And I'm going to get this. And pull this up. Right here. Right? That's what I would do to create kind of that tone of the chairs, if that's the color that I'm seeking. Right? To match that area. Let's say you don't like those green walls, which I'm not liking it, I'm not loving it. I want to make it a gray wall. You know what I mean? It's just not white, it's gray. Let's see if I can save it. It's gonna be like green gray. You see the gray I'm using right there? And up here. Okay, so that's me using the gray. Oh, that didn't work. See what happens when I leave it? Here we go. That works. That's good right there. Now, that's not the gray I want to do. It's gonna be like a gray, that type of gray. And trust me, it's gonna be even that corner is gonna be even darker once I'm done with this. Right, it's gonna be even darker than that. So that's the gray there. Pulling that gray out right there. Let me pull this up. Right? That green is still coming through here. That wall wants to be green. Alright, so that's that gray. That's that gray wall. It's still going to be a lot darker in these corners here. And here. And here. Right? Just adding these shadows there, those areas. See? There we go. So we just changed that green wall. And I'm going to grab that and actually go up here. There you go. Quick hand, confident stroke, and there's your space right there. It's kind of the gray wall that we have. This area there is made out of wood as well. And I'm going to say it's going to be a little bit darker, so I'm going to start with the darker wood. So this is actually wood, right, happening here. And I'm going to go with the vanishing points. So these are like wood slats here. Right, these are wood as well, coming up. Wood handrails. Right, and even on the back side here, wood handrails. Right, you see that? And the stairs themselves are wood. The line drawing is going to help you a lot. So you need a, and so is this member here. This wood. Right, so we can see that there. Now that's just the initial color. I want to play with the movement. Right. It's going to be darker there. It's going to be darker here. Right. This whole beam, I want it to be a little bit darker. And what I'm going to do is, yeah, I would say it's that. I want to say it's like that. It's, since it has light on the bottom, I'm not going to make it that dark. I'm just going to put some gray right underneath this whole thing here, real quick. Right. And then I'm going to go over it with that same. There we go. That's that piece right there. Oh, we missed this piece here. This is wood as well. This is wood as well. And these little things that pop out. You know, I'm gonna leave that white right there. But nothing's ever white, so I'm gonna just put a little bit of gray, light gray right there. So these members here were high contrasting dark beams that are holding up the roof. All right. I'm just gonna do it. I'm just gonna do this so you guys can see what's happening. There you go. And I'm gonna be even darker with that. Meaning, this is really dark because it's getting contrast from the sun. Right, this area right there. So even though I use that dark color, I'm getting even darker, right? And I'm gonna get even darker with this area right there. Right? And then what am I gonna do here? So this is outside, these are windows leaking outside. I'm not gonna go crazy with let's say it's a beautiful day. I don't know let's say what color blue we want to use. That one, or I want a lighter one. I don't have a lighter blue. I thought I had a lighter blue. No, this is the lighter blue. What color goes better with what I'm doing? All right. No, I'm gonna go with this aqua. What about that one? Or no, that's too much. And the same thing we did in terms of how this is glass. So I'm just gonna address some of these panes. Right, some of the areas. I'm not gonna go overboard with it. It's really quick. Just to get an idea, that's outside. You would say, right? You can do that like that. Quick. Quick. Right, we're not trying to color the glass. We're just trying to kind of hint that that's actually glass above that, letting light in. All right. Now, a couple of things as I'm doing here. Like I haven't addressed every little detail, right? Because, you know, let's say this is a wood table here as well, right? That's happening. I'm just gonna make this lighter on this edge here, because that's what you would see. There's gonna be a dark shadow on the floor there, right? In that area. And you know what we didn't do is we didn't put that gray on the wall there. That's gray there. That's happening there. So you see the space. You see the space kind of come to life in terms of the rendering. And this is without adding any details, because I can begin to now add details. Let's come here. I want to add details where things are highlighted. Highlighted there, right? Maybe there's an edge that's highlighted there. Maybe I want to highlight this, right? That edge right there. I'll come back to create this. I left the hotspot, so it's coming out, it's popping out. I can do this here, right? I can highlight some of the edges that I want to highlight. Let's say like that area right there, right? Or that area right there. Highlights in these areas. Highlights in the furniture. Say that's just a white area. Highlight here. I think that pretty much worked pretty well. I'm just gonna keep this dark theme and just and I'm not gonna be scared to go darker here. It's a dark frame. Right. So you begin to see kind of the space. Now you're rendering the space and there's movement of light. As things begin to dry up, right? Let this dry up. Now you realize that this can be a lot darker. If this is this color gray, this bottom is going to be a lot darker here. It really will, because there's no light hitting there, right? So don't be afraid. Give it that intensity. Right? Give it that intensity of what's really happening in the space. There you go. I'll leave it just like that. So you can see how it gets darker. This is a little lighter, right? That way it doesn't look so disconnected. There we go. That's that gray wall back there. If, let's say if you want to say that this is glass, right? There's glass in between all that. Right? Well, you can begin to create different effects here, like that. You can't see it, but you can see it there. That begins to look like glass. Let me look at it up here. All right. So follow along as you develop this. I didn't put, these are windows as well here. So you can do the same approach that you did in the big ones like this if you want to add some tonality on it. Right. If you know, I don't like to leave it all white all the time. Even here. Nothing's ever, unless there's a hotspot coming in. But that creates kind of a stylized view of the rendering. So hopefully you guys get a good picture, a good glimpse of kind of creating a little more complicated space with smaller objects and still creating that gradation, right? Those hotspots. Of course, this is not, I can go back, if you give me another 30 minutes and begin to detail, right? And creating like harsher shadows, right? On these areas, like underneath things. The more you create these shadows, the more things pop out, right? Like the brick will come more to life. Sorry, not break the stone. Right, and that same approach you begin to add in all the areas. And this is a small rendering. I'm making the chairs a little darker. I don't think that light color works. I think this works better with the design. Yeah, I'm liking this better. Right, there you go. Right. Maybe the seats were a little lighter. There we go. All right, perfect. All right, guys. Enjoy it. This is going to be your exercise. Give yourselves, this was, I think, a 30-minute video with me talking. Right? So, you know, spend 30 minutes working on it, evolving this. Remember, the colors are going to be important for you to get that right. Try to focus on the reflectivity. The flooring, I kept it light. If you want to make it darker, you just go over it with a darker tone, right? Don't be scared. You can even have ebony black floors and you can still create gradation in color. Alright, hope you enjoyed this one. Have fun practicing. And I like seeing this, right? I like seeing how you see the evolution of the colors that you're choosing. And remember, to see if you have a good rendering, you look at the back. And you should be able to get a sense of the space where there's a back wall, where there's shadows, right? You should be able to see that on the back of the page as well. Okay, guys, enjoy. Have fun.